Hello guys, so welcome to another video and let us continue with our GUI creation. So in the last video we have created three buttons which was import button, save button and the close button. So in this video we will be creating two sliders, one for adjusting the brightness of the image and other for adjusting the contrast of the image. So let us start with the coding. I'll create a new copy of the file. We'll create a new file, Python file. We'll name it as image editor version 2. Okay, and let us copy paste our code. All right, so to hold the two sliders I'll create a second frame, and this frame will contain the two sliders for brightness and contrast. So I'll create a frame 2 should be equal to tk dot frame, and this will be again on window. Height will be equal to 20 and width will be equal to screen width. So I want the sliders to be appearing on full screen horizontally, so that is why I have created the frame width as screen width, and we'll just pack it frame2 dot pack, and this will anchor on northwest side. So and E for northwest and W. All right, and now let us create the sliders for brightness as well as for contrast. So for that we'll create a brightness slider which should be equal to tk dot, for slider we have a method called scale, and here this has to appear on frame 2, and the label will be brightness, and we want there has to be a minimum and maximum value for the slider, so we'll assign the minimum and maximum value. So for that there is a parameter called from underscore, and which will be equal to 0 comma 2, which will be equal to 2. Let us pack this. So brightness slider dot pack, and this again will anchor to north, tk dot north. We have to define the orientation of the slider, so for that we'll use parameter called orient, ORIENT, which will be equal to tk dot horizontal, and we have to define the length of the slider as well. So length will be equal to screen width. Let us run this code, and you see we have a brightness slider appeared on the screen. Now if you see here, from 0 it directly jumps to 1 and then 2. So I want it to be moving in the resolution of 0.1. So let us try to change this. I'll just close this window, and here we will add the resolution for our brightness slider. So resolution will be equal to 0.1, and again we want to implement a certain method when we click on the slider, so or we move the slider. So for that we'll use command which will be equal to brightness underscore callback. We missed a comma here. All right, and let us define this method. Brightness define brightness underscore callback, and let's just say pass. We'll run this, and now if you see, it is moving by 0.1. So that is all we want. But now here is something that you should notice. If you see here, it is generating an error. Now when you when we call the callback function, there has to be argument which will actually give the position of the slider. So here we will define a variable which will give us the current position of the slider. So brightness underscore pos. So this will give us the current position of the slider, and let us try to print this. Print brightness position. That's it. Let us run this again. I'll just move it here so that we can see what is printing on the screen. You see 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. So everything is being printed on the screen. So that means our callback function is working very nicely. Let's close this, and similarly we'll just define a slider for contrast. So I'll just copy this and paste it here, and now instead of brightness slider, this will be contrast slider. UNTRST. Okay, and this will be appearing on frame 2. We want the label as contrast. Okay, orient to, I want the values from 0 to 255. Let's say orient horizontal. That's good. Screen width, resolution, I do not want to use any resolution here, so by default it will be moving by one single digit. Okay, and we'll have to define a callback method that will be contrast underscore callback, and let us define a method here. Define contrast underscore callback, and again this will be we have to define an argument here. We have to pass argument over here that will be contrast position, and this will give us the current position of the slider. Let us print this. Contrast position. That's it, and we will back this slider. All right, contrast, why do we have an error here? Okay, spelling mistake. Now it's okay, fine. Let us run this. Yep, so we have two sliders here. Let us try to move this. You can see the brightness value is being printed on the screen. Similarly, we'll try with the contrast. You can see all the values being printed on the screen. All right, so we are almost halfway there. In the next video we will be creating some radio buttons for which will be actually changing the which will be actually applying filters on the image, different kinds of filters that will be applying on the image. So this is it for this video. See you in the next one.